So the Hawks were on a back-to-back Wednesday, headed up to Minnesota,
Back to back.
looking to avenge a loss over a week ago. And it was a blowout loss to the Wolves, by the way. And they had some very important things on the line, right? They were looking at what the Heat were going to do, the Bulls were going to do last night, as well as the Raptors, because it's so tight, right in that 6, 7, 8 night space, right? So
Mm-hmm.
prime opportunity for the Hawks to make some things happen and, just get back to one of the three things they've been doing 26 games. They went in 500 so they could go back above 500 or one below 500. This is a dance we've been doing for about 26 games here and counting,
Yes.
right? Looking good. Go slowly but surely. It's like, okay, yeah, you're out. DeJounte Murray's out. Jalen Johnson, it was his fourth game out. So you're thinking, okay, that's kind of a hindrance, especially because Karl Anthony Towns is coming back, right? But then
Yeah.
you also know that Anthony Edwards isn't playing. So the Hawks were treading along and moving along, 11 points, and we're thinking, okay, until about that eighth minute in the fourth quarter. And it went from an 11-point lead with a 19-4 run from the Wolves that pretty much deaded this thing. And we know the result 125, 124, the final. And yes, you can talk about what happened and answer the question DeAndre Hunter's bad three happened. But Jarvis, there were so many moments in that game. So many moments. Now, I'm going to tell you, we usually talk good, bad, and ugly when it gets to situations like that. So, Jarvis, if I can take the lead on that one, I'm going to go ugly first. Let's just
Oh
get it
yeah.
out of the way.
Yeah.
Then
Let's
we'll
get
go
it.
bad, but we'll be nice to Hawks Nation, and we're going to end up with the good. So, okay, Jarvis, let's get the ugly out of the way. What is it for you?
Woo, he got to be those turnovers by Trae Young in the fourth quarter. It was ugly.
Indeed.
Like I was just like, what are you doing? Like just careless with the basketball. Like, and it wasn't him too. I add Mr. Microphone as well. He was careless with the ball. I'm just like, what are you doing? It's so goofy sometimes when he's handling the basketball and he gets it in his hands. And it's just like he doesn't know what to do with it. But yeah, I have to give most of the blame to Trae Young when it comes to those turnovers because when you just look up and down, like the box score at the end of the night, he was like, okay, well, where did they lose this game?
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't watch that game, you go down and look at the box score, you be like, turnovers,
Yeah.
points off a turnover, 24. There you go. Like those are some of the things
Yeah.
that you cannot have. You can't have those type of things late in games, especially when it's tight, and
Right.
especially when you had a double-digit lead
Yeah.
with less than 10 minutes to go in the game in the fourth
Right.
quarter. So those are some of the things that just really burn my brownies, as one of my former colleagues used to say. And
Right.
I probably don't need to say it again, but
You don't.
but thanks, T. I appreciate you. You always keep your boy in check. But and another thing too, as far as with Trey, and it just defensively, like the Timberwolves was like, whoever Trey's guarding, like that's who we're gonna get a rock. Torian Prince out here, ISO, like get out the way, like Mike. I'm just like, wait a minute, what is going
Right.
on
The
here?
story in print.
I'm like, TP out here. Now, I know he got buckets the other night shooting threes or whatever, but goodness gracious, just ISO Joe, like you know what I'm saying? It was just kind of ugly as you're going down the fourth quarter, and I was sitting there watching it with my wife, and she was just like, I can't watch this. I already know what the end result going to be. I was like, thanks for being my inner gut, like I normally feel.
Right. And since you went with the ugly of the turnovers and what can happen, you can't give them 24 points off 17 turnovers when all you get is 11 points off 11 turnovers. I'm going to give my ugly to, my favorite term, lack of basketball IQ. How in the world do you have 3.6 seconds on the clock and have three plays drawn up? Because you did have a timeout, and I love the timeout that Quinn Snyder called to challenge. I thought that made sense to me, and that is
Yeah,
why
it
you
did. Yeah,
hold a couple of timeouts towards the end as the game starts to tighten up.
indeed.
But then you have the timeout, you draw up three plays, 3.6 seconds, and you hastily inbound the ball and then get it back and you heave up a three DeAndre Hunter. To
Yeah.
me, that was ugly. And it was also ugly. And I get that AJ Griffin only had 4 points. I get that. But if it's me and all I need is to get a shooter who's going to shoot, I got to take John Collins out. Like, I don't understand why the five that
Yeah.
were in were in.
Bruh.
and mainly him.
Like, why are you in there?
Yeah, like mainly him, because at
Yeah,
least if you have a Clint Capella, or even if you would have gone with an Onyeka Okongwu, you've got enough presence in the paint to be able to do a tip in, or somehow if the ball just lands to them, like a point blank range shot. But yeah, to
right,
me, that was the ugly lack of execution, kind of understanding the moment, situational basketball IQ, whatever you want to call it, that
right.
just went out the door. And that is why you continue to just be a 500 team that floats one game above 500 or one game below 500. Now, we'll go a little bit more positive. Maybe this isn't ugly, but maybe there was still some bad. What's the bad from last night?
Bo missing that shot last night. I gotta call him Bo for this particular moment because he had a clean look. T, I'm sitting up here like, dude,
It was clean.
like that's your shot, and it just came up short because it seemed like he kind of faded back right at the end. I was like, dude, that's why you missed that doggone shot, because the jump shooters know like it's straight up and down, baby. Like you gotta get that last little push, and I know it's the fourth quarter. I know it's coming down to the wire, and it's been a long season and everything, but you got to go that thing straight up and down with that one, T, because he tends to fade away on his mid-range shots, and that's fine because hey, the distance, you can get it up there if you're a shooter. Shooter's gonna shoot, but when you on that 3-point, you got that bad boy lined up. All he had to do was just straight up and down. T, I think he would have knocked it down, but yeah, that was a bad one for me. And I tweeted it out at Jarvis D90, by the way, if you want to partake. I said that I was like, man, Bo missed that shot. That was probably the game right there. They had the opportunity to go ahead and take that game, take them boys out of their misery, and they just weren't able to take advantage.
Yeah. And to me, I'm going to give the bad to the starters, the Hawks starters versus the Hawks bench,
Okay.
because the bench and I'm kind of segueing into my good, by the way, but
Yes, of course.
yeah, I'm going to give that to the starters, because why is it that I am looking at 3.6 seconds and wanting one, if not two of the starters out of the game? Why am I scratching my head saying, why in the world is Collins in there and maybe kind of sort of Hunter? That to me is still bad. Like, I should
Yeah.
have more than one starter outside of DeJounte Murray, who was out, who I can say, oh yeah, they got a good chance of winning this thing. But when DeAndre Hunter had the ball in his hands, I was like, oh no, please tell me that wasn't what they drew up. And of
Yeah.
course, we find out that there were 3 plays. But yeah, to me, it was the starters, because when one particular starter we'll go with Karl Anthony Towns. When Karl Anthony Towns needed to step up, whether you believe that was an offensive foul or not, doesn't matter. When
Right.
they put
Yeah.
the ball in his hands with closing seconds in the
Goofy.
game, he
Mr.
delivered.
Microphone.
He delivered.
Yes, he did. He did.
But when
Yes.
our starter
I'll
was
give him that,
asked to
yeah.
deliver, he couldn't. And starters, and not just DeAndre Hunter, because hey, somebody could have been prepared for the rebound and the putback.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody was there.
On
So
that
I'm going to
though,
give the bad on that.
and on that as well, like, can I add just a little bit more bad? And it's not necessarily
Of
the
course,
Hawks'
just pour
fault.
on.
Oh yeah, come on, yeah, let's pour it on, baby. How about that to the referees admitting after the game that Sadiq Bey got fouled on the rebound,
Yes.
on that rebounded play. And I'm just like, that's the thing about this whole, I forgot what they refer to it as, after the game, about certain
The
calls
pool
and everything.
report.
The pool report. Like, where's the accountability? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can admit that you missed the call. So
Right.
where's
Are
the
you going to get
accountability?
fined?
Are
Do
you
you
getting
get suspended for a
fined? Do
game?
you get suspended? Or
Yeah.
does this is this a tally? Say, hey, you're not going to be able to referee in the playoffs or something. Like, if you're going to go public with it, it has to be some public type of accountability as well. I'm not saying they should fire the person, but golly, man, like, that's potentially the reason why they lost the game. Now we know in a vacuum, yeah, we can look at it from that standpoint, but it just from a fairness standpoint of calling the game down the line throughout and the subjectivity of it, objectivity of it, you have to be able to say, hey, like, if it's a foul, it's a foul. Like, if that's gonna be your mantra, as the referee, as a coalition in the NBA, then you have to call that back. You have to call it, because Sadiq Bey was sitting up on the ground like, dang, dude,
Right.
you got mugged right now.
Yeah. But that goes to my point about why it was bad for the starters because who gave you a chance if the referees hadn't taken it away? Who gave you a chance? Sadiq Bey. And so
Yeah,
the good for me for that game was the bench mob. I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm comfortable and confident calling them that again because that's what they were when they were at their best. Not just the second unit, but they actually had a name. And when you look at the fact that they had 41 points, 41 points off the bench, and primarily from Sadiq Bey and Onyeka Okongwu, but nonetheless, 41 of those points. And then you look down the stat line and you see 19 rebounds. That's pretty cool. You see
Mm-hmm.
4 blocks between Double O and AJ Griffin, and even assists. They did a nice job of sharing the ball and spacing out 15 assists. So that for me was the good, the fact that at the right time, your second unit or your bench mob is coming together. And I really, really like that. And hopefully when Jalen Johnson returns, that's going to really round out the bench mob.
Yeah, and that's some of the things that you have to have the positive light for, right? That's the
Yeah.
light. That's the light coming down to the end of the season because when you look at some of the guys that they brought in after the trade deadline, as far as Sadiq Bey, he's starting to be a real factor. And sitting there watching the game with the straightforwardness of hot takiness in the household. As my wife, she was like, I like his game. I was like, yes, everybody can see this. The dude can
Yes.
play some basketball. And I think
Yes.
that this is going to be a sneaky trade that people are going to
Hmm.
look back on like, dang, Landry Fields is out here making moves. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I like. I like the fact that we've given them their nickname back because we are the show of nicknames. We will give you a nickname in a heartbeat. I know
Yes,
people.
indeed.
Sorry, I got some people hit me up on Twitter talking about how much they like the Mr. Microphone. So I'm just gonna refer to him as Mr. Microphone going forward, right here on ATL Day Wins. But yeah, it's good to see that the bench is starting to finally contribute and establish themselves. That, hey, we got an identity as well, and this is what we're gonna do each and every night. And that consistency is going to be key going forward this year and next year as well.
Now, you've heard us talk about our frustration with the referees and how it does essentially impact the game if you're not careful. I suspect that Locked On Sports Today might talk about it as well because at the end of the day, it's not just an issue against the Hawks, it's an issue across the league of accountability. So if you want to hear their reaction to bad calls and the like, or if you want to hear what they have to say about the Sweet 16 that kicks off tonight, check out Locked On Sports Today. And you know what's coming up next, right? For the culture, you can check out their version, which is Take of the Day. So again, you check us out on YouTube. That's where you can check them out as well. And you can also check them out wherever you listen to your podcast. That's Locked On Sports Today, right after ATL Day Ones.